How to write a thesis statement. This is of particular interest if you're writing something in the States, but I think the principles of the thesis statement are useful wherever you're approaching academic English. The thesis statement is the purpose of your essay, and it's often a single sentence which occurs at the end of your introductory paragraph. It does four distinct things, but don't be misled, because I think your thesis statement should nevertheless be brief. Don't allow it to move between, well, don't allow it to get much more than one complex sentence. Work out what sort of essay that you are writing. Is it argumentative? You have a goal and a job to convince the reader of your point of view. So your thesis statement works towards that goal. Is it analytical or expository? What are you explaining? Your thesis statement is the first step towards that, and everything else is going to be evidence. Think of the various critical thinking skills which you are targeting. I think there's 6 of them. Analysis, comparison, evaluation, argument, and the last one eludes me, reflection. Who are you writing for? Do remember your audience all the time. For instance, if you are writing a lab report, then your thesis statement is simply a statement of your main purpose. If you are writing a critical review, then you are already making an evaluation about the particular article or the book that you are reviewing. Just a note here that there's a difference between a thesis statement and a research question. This becomes significant at higher levels of academic writing, particularly when you are writing a degree thesis. Sometimes the research question is given to you, and sometimes, particularly in the higher academic papers, you have to write your own research question. And there's a tendency to confuse the two things. The research question proposes the question that your thesis statement is going to answer. And of course, as you move into higher academic studies, you have to ask, how does your research question, or how does your thesis statement relate to already published material? Now, a good thesis statement, whatever form of writing you're doing, is going to be an introduction to not only your work, but also to the way that you are thinking about it. It signals how you understand and interpret the question. It tells the reader what to expect from the way you answer. It answers the basic questions of the paper. So in fact, everything else that you write is simply fleshing out what you've already stated in your thesis statement. Everything else is in fact evidence to back up what you've just said. The thesis statement establishes the core issue, maybe something controversial. So it has the same resonance as the conclusion to your essay. So don't hurry to write your thesis statement. Take your time. Consider all the evidence. If you write something fast, it may be inadequate or wholly inappropriate, and you'll spend the rest of your essay trying to defend the indefensible or contradicting yourself. Don't be afraid, particularly in these days when you're writing essays on your computer, to go back and revise your thesis statement. Be prepared as you write your essay to revise your thesis statement in line with what you're writing. So you begin by collecting evidence by brainstorming before you write your thesis statement. What are the known facts? Can you add to these facts? Can you uncover something new? How do these facts cohere? How do they hang together? What are the particular links? Look at the significance of these facts. Check that the views of people you don't like are views that you can deal with. Look at the points that you want to address. Look at those things you want to disagree with. Scribble some sentences once you have a working thesis and see how that develops. Then draft your thesis statement. But don't stop there. Ask yourself 3 questions. The first one, does it answer the question? I've said before, I always like to write my essay question on a separate piece of paper and keep it in front of me all the time. Keep the journalistic words in mind all the time. How, why, when, where, who? Your thesis must answer at least some of these questions. Point 2, or the second question, make sure that there is an argument. Don't simply provide a summary of the facts. That's not going to be interesting, but be clear. Avoid vague, woolly words. A thesis is no good when the reader has looked at it, if he or she shrugs and says, so what? Make it count. And the third question that you have to answer when you're writing a thesis statement is, are you being specific? Are you being focused? Why or how is something good, useful, successful, bad, evil, peculiar, and so on? Finally, try to focus your statement. Some people like to see the thesis statement in the context of a paragraph that hooks the reader into the subject, a description, an example, or an anecdote, something that captures the reader's attention. I should add, just for the record, that I'm not a great fan of this approach. My own feeling is that we should not waste time with the introductory paragraph. We should try to get as fast as possible into the meat of the essay and start dealing with the evidence, start marshalling that information so that it does its job. But the opening paragraph, those opening words that you write, including the thesis statement, are going to have a lasting effect on the reader. And if the reader doesn't get beyond that opening paragraph, whatever else, however good you are in the later paragraphs, you have wasted your time. So that is why it is so important in these days of the computer to be prepared to go back and revise your thesis statement to make sure that what you are writing is good. If you don't have a lot of time, write the main paragraphs of the essay and then go back and write your thesis statement. But make sure your thesis statement is clear and focused and succinct. Thank you. This is Tim.